Hi, and welcome to my video on data types, variables, and a few other things. So what exactly are data types? What is data types? Is it the music files that I store on my device, or the videos, or the documents? Well, yes and no. It's a bit more complicated than that, you see. Not to worry. Now, you can think of data types as containers, okay? And these containers store different types of data, right? Why do we use containers in real life? We use containers to hold something, to put something inside. And that's why we use data types in programming, to hold some sort of data. Now, data can be of various types, as we all know. Let's take a look at what different types of data we can have. We can have numeric data. We can have alphanumeric data. We can have data full of strings, that's letters. Or we can have a binary sort of data where there are only two possibilities, either yes or no, true or false, 0 or 1. I think you get the point. Anyways, so now the question is, what exactly is variables? And the name variable, so does that mean it varies like the currency? Because every time I check Google, the rate of the currency is different. Well, yes, again, it's one of those yes and no questions. So let's take a look at what variables are. Variables are used to have some sort of identification for the data types, right? You can have multiple containers. Continuing from our example, you may have multiple containers, right? But how do you identify and differentiate between each and every one of those containers? You give them names, right? Yes. So variables are kind of like names. Okay, you can think of them as names. Okay, and they are called variables because the data that they contain can vary. It can change. So, like with everything else, there are many types of variables, right? You have your static variables, you have local variables, you have reference variables, and you have global variables. Confused? Well, don't be confused. I know it seems a lot to take in right now, especially if you're a beginner, but as you practice more and more, things will become clearer, okay? And something like static and reference variables will only be getting into once we enter some of the more advanced concepts, okay? So let's hop into VS Code, and I hope you watched my video on setting up VS Code on your system. If you didn't, you can find the link right here. So let's hop into VS Code and take a look at some of the examples and practical things about variables and data types. Okay, I think it's time now to show you how to set up or start up your Visual Studio Code, right? I had left out that part the last time because that wasn't really the focus of the video. We'll do that this time, of course. So what I've done, as you can see, is I've created an empty folder called codes, okay? And inside this folder, we need to create a file. I'll right click and create a new file and call it a variable example. Make sure there are no spaces in between the name in your file name, okay? And you need to give it the extension of .cpp. It'll give you a warning, say yes. And now we need to make sure that CPP in your system is associated with VS Code. So right click, open with, choose another app, select Visual Studio Code from this list, and check this box which says always use this app to open .cpp files, okay? If you don't find it over here, you may have to scroll down and click on more apps. If you still don't find it, then you can click on this and that'll open up the file explorer where you can select where you've downloaded it, okay? I've already done that, so I don't need to do it. So let's open it up now, and it will automatically open in Visual Studio Code. Okay. We don't need that. Next, I'm going to just open up my folder, select folder. Okay, now it's loaded, and here's the code that we wrote. I mean, here's the file that we created. We haven't written anything else. Now, it's time to start. So every C++ program, or at least every basic C++ program, needs to have a couple of things, okay? The first thing is a header file. We need to type #include iostream. So as you can see, the tooltip tells us that it's there. Okay, this is the syntax. Next, we need to type using namespace std. Now, I know I showed you some other way of doing it the other time, but keeping things simple for now. Also, it must also include a main function, okay? So int main, that's not how I like my stuff. Okay, int main, and here I have gone ahead and created a function. Okay, so let's have an integer value of, okay, integer, before we proceed, is for your numeric data, okay? And instead of integer, you can use float, you can use long, you can use double. So what's the difference between these three? They're all used for numeric data. The difference is the range. As you can see from this table I have, each and every one of these data types has some sort of a range, okay? So if you know that your value is going to lie between these numbers, you can go ahead and use integer. But if you're not sure, right? If you're not sure, for example, when you're testing something, you don't know how much, or you don't know the extremities of your value. In that case, you can use something like float. Also, it's better that when you are using, data which has fractions or decimals, right? Not whole numbers, but decimals and fractions, it's better to use float. Okay, back to our VS Code. So let's have an int a value, and I'm going to give it a value of 5. Now this process of giving it a value is called initialization. Remember that. Let's create another variable, another value. Let's give it a name. Let's initialize it to 10, I'm sorry. Now, I will have a third variable, integer total. Okay, and I will say total equals a value plus another value. Okay, now we need to print this to the console. Okay, if I save this program by pressing Ctrl S and I run it by clicking on the play button, it's going to compile, and there we go. It's finished compiling, as you can see in the terminal. But I don't see a value. The reason is, what we have done is we've only done the calculation. Okay, we haven't actually told the console or told the compiler to display it to the user, to the end user. The way to do that is simple. You have to type this keyword cout followed by this operator, the two less than signs or the two angular brackets. Okay, and you need to say total. End with a semicolon, save again, and click the play button again. Here we go. Our answer is 15. 10 plus 5 is 15. Correct. So, there are also other things, things like bool. But this one we will discuss when we get into if statements, which would be the next video. Okay? Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, click the like button. If you loved the video, click the subscribe button. And for some reason, if you did not love the video, well, just hit the button anyways. Otherwise I'll be really sad, and it'll just be one more sad soul in the world. And I know that we can't save each and everyone, but well, you can at least save me,